path of grace is led by an example of soul like Shyamdas, because in these paths we cannot learn from text, we cannot learn from Shastras, and it is very difficult to understand and to follow someone if somebody has not practically performed in front of you. His life was an exact example. He led his life as in Virakta and as in Bhogi, both. He used to enjoy world and he was also separate from world. That's an exact example of Bhakta. He knew when to withdraw and when to get in. And these kind of examples are perfect to follow. When to come into the stage and when to get down. The entire world is stage, like how we are sitting here. And when we are enjoying his Leela. So now how to understand it, and how to take things and how to leave things, and when to enter, what is written for us. So we are doing it, we are taking things as it comes. And he led the example, perfect example. He never knew what he was doing tomorrow. He was a perfect example of the Bhagavad Leela, the Krishna's Leela. Leela is a play. And the Shuddhatva is a perfect example of the play going on. We are not watching a movie on a screen. That is a false implication. False implication in the sense it's been done before, and now what we are watching is not an exact. Basically, it's an illusion world. But Shuddhavik never teaches us the illusionary world. We need to act. We need to play on a stage. How to act and how to understand Krishna. And when to do what. How to love and not to get into the worldly love too. And even if we get to it, to make it a divine love. Everything what we are doing. Like it's Vallabhacharya says, Tasmadadau sarvakarye sarvavastu samarpanam. Whatever we do, even in our daily life, like if you are cooking, and cooking for your own self, for your own taste, it becomes worldly. It gives you worldly pleasure, or if you don't like it, it gives you worldly pain. But when you cook for Krishna, so your ego into it, your own attachment to it from the world goes away. And that what Bhakta's life is all about. I often remember Shyamdas cooking up, and I used to go up, have his pasta, which is a very new thing for us Indian over there. Because in Braj, Krishna used to have whatever, like in what we eat in Braj, that is Mathura and all. But his thing was totally different. He was like with pasta and salads. So basically, he was living Krishna's life in Vraj and then playing his own standard of living, what he used to wear, and blending it to make a new play. So he was living with Krishna and living a new life, and that what bhaktas blending towards Krishna, the Supreme Blessed One, is. So this is how he led an example. Understanding about the path of grace, the refuge, because his refuge was so strong. Whatever is happening because of Krishna, and whatever will happen is for Krishna only. Now there are two things in refuge, is taking shelter and having a firm refuge. Like for example, if it rains somewhere and we take temporary shelter somewhere, it's the first stage of taking shelter. But if we build house and we protect ourselves in a permanent way, our refuge becomes firm. So even the ashraya, what it's called is Sharanagati, that's the first initiation in path of grace, is to understand what these two type of refuge is, what is the shelter and how to reach to the firm refuge. Taking shelter In the sense, in the small way, how we understand Krishna more and more, and whatever we are doing it is actually not we are doing it, is what's Krishna's play. Sometimes what we misunderstand in the shelter and all, like when we fail in our life, we try to take shelter. Oh, we failed and now there is no way out. What Bhakta does, he actually gives away everything. He just do karma, that is a Purushartha, and then he leaves it to Krishna, not leaves it to the Prarabdha, is what it's actually the karma cycle says. So, by that way, he controls his actions. How? Because, like example is perfect for Shyamdas, he never used to take tension. He had nothing, what's happening tomorrow. There is no goal. Many people used to ask him, what's your goal, where you want to reach? I don't want to reach anywhere. Basically, how it's Vallabhacharya explains is, charai veti, charai veti, charai veti. Like how you loiter around garden and enjoy the garden. You don't have to start to reach somewhere. To take world as a stage, as a Krishna Leela, and enjoy each and every moment of it. It's very difficult to understand in this world because the karma yogi world, definitely, and the karma is the part of life. But ultimately, how much control we have towards our Purushartha and karma, and to dedicate it, or ultimately it happens what he wishes, Krishna wishes. So it's better to control on our, we dedicate ourselves. So in the first stage of bhakti is refuge. That means taking shelter. And in their stages is chanting Sri Krishna Sharanamama is the first step. So continuously chanting the Sri Krishna is taking refuge, is by the Vani, is by words. But then things never ends here. It has to reach to Praptam Seveta Nirmamam. That means you have to lose the attachment to each and every item in the world. All the attachment with the people, with the karma, the kriya. If how these things happen is, we do kriya, we do all these karmas, and we don't expect anything. Like Bhagavan says in Gita also. So here the karma has to be done, but take it as a leela. To understand it completely, you have to understand is how the play going on the stage. You have been given a dialogue, you have been given a character to play, and now you are playing a character to please him. So everything is decided. Your dialogues are decided, your actions are decided. Now best what you are doing is acting. How well you can act well to please our main director called Krishna. So this is how bhakta lives has to go, because we need to dedicate, and then to reach to dedication. After shelter, now we need to offer everything, because to understand the refuge is kind of taking Krishna as a fatherly figure. But Gatir Bharta Prabhu Sakshi, in the sense, if we have to, because the Krishna is Viruddha Dharmashraya Sarupa, that means even the father and a son can become your husband and wife. This type of form is the Supreme Being's form, because he is not bound by any worldly relations. So to have that closeness and to love him and to reach to that level, you need to dedicate everything. Like I started with an example of cooking, how you offer everything. And in that way, you do start to seva. What I commonly understand is the seva has been called as kind of a
karma yoga, basically. You should understand the seva is selfless action. Or,
but here is seva is to please him. All actions are to please Krishna. If he says, oh, now you have done, you have pleased me, that is seva. So it is not self-oriented. You have to do away with your ego, that is ahankara. And now you are dedicating that ego to Krishna. So that reaches to that level of seva, to please him. And that is again turning up into bhakti. Because the Narad Bhakti Sutra says that Mahatma Jnana Purvastu Sudrid Sarvoto Adhik Sneha Bhakti. That means knowledge, Mahatma Jnana, knowledge of Supreme, and then it turns into the sneh. Because mostly what happens is knowledge gives us ego, self-ego, that we know the knowledge. We want to get liberated on our own self. In every world, it's like everything what we do is we are creating certain kind of a sattvic ego. And that is again is a burden to get liberated. Even the jnana becomes a burden. The knowledge becomes burden. And when we reach to that level that where out of that jnana we start loving Krishna, is what bhakti, what Narad Bhakti Sutra says. So in this the steps are like that. The first you have to know the jnana, the Mahatma Jnana of Krishna, the Supreme Being. And then Jiva Jnana. Who am I? Am I omnipresent or I am just a Jiva? We need to understand the relation between the soul and the Brahman. Because when soul started having a goal of becoming Krishna himself, then that soul is again not a bhakta, maybe jnani. The path of knowledge, not path of grace. Because now we are walking on a path of grace. We need his grace, we need his love. For that, the Jiva has to remember, the soul has to remember that he is not omnipresent like him, but he is part of omnipresent. And then we walk in this path first as a self-realization, and then we should have a dinta, humility. Whatever is here it is understand humility is a different way, but here humility is actually nissadhanta. That means we cannot achieve Krishna by our own karmas. If he wishes to accept us, we can achieve him. Otherwise it becomes very difficult. So that nissadhanta should come, then we become sadhana rahita. Hope you are understanding those Sanskrit jargons. And if not, you can question me again and again.
Sadhana is a pretty familiar term. Sadhana, like a practice that you're doing to attain something. Mm-hmm. So there's this nisadhana where you're, but it's not. Shyamdas talked about this a bit too, where that doesn't mean you don't do any practice or do anything, right? But you're somehow beyond it.
Yeah. Here I'm talking about the sadhana is regarding achieving Supreme Being, Krishna. And there is no sadhana left to achieve him. For example, if we do dhyan, we may know the jivatma, that is the soul. We are having a knowledge of soul, but not having a solid knowledge of Krishna. If he wishes to be known by himself, then only we can know him. So that's the nissadhanta what I'm talking about. And that gives us humility. That we cannot do anything. We are bhakta. And we have to walk on the path of love and grace. And if Krishna becomes happy with us, then only we can achieve him. So this nissadhanta would lead to wisdom, that is viveka. And now we know what wisdom we have to follow as a bhakta in the lifestyle. And in day-to-day life, how we have to live those life. And that wisdom will become into dhairya, perseverance. That whatever is happening in this world, the tridukha sahanam, that is even the pain and whatever is going on, agony and everything in this world, how to take that? A bhakta has to learn those things. And then he gets into the ashra, that shelter. So these are the basic steps of Pushti Marg, the Pushti Bhakti. I think so we should interact so that we can understand more, because I'm more, that's much better.
My question is, when you say to achieve Krishna, I'm not sure, do you mean like to become, or is that kind of lost in translation?
Good question. This is the basic difference between the Mayavad and a Brahmavad. To become Krishna is actually Jivatma become a Brahmatma. Bhakta never wants to become Brahmatma. He wants to remain a Jiva, and he wants to achieve Krishna. In the same way, like in a rain, the water falls in a sea, and actually the identity gets diluted. But in the same way, if that water goes into oysters and then it becomes pearl, it retains its identity. We want to, as a jiva, the bhakta wants to retain its identity, to play with Krishna. The play should go on. And that's why even the seva is, that is, to serve him, is a starting point, which we are also doing it even if we are leaving our body. So that play continues. We are not breaking that play. So if we ourselves becomes Krishna, then who will play with us? Because that's end. And we want to play with Supreme Being. We have to retain our identity and then play with. Like whatever identity He gave you. In a play of Ramayana, someone is Ram, someone is Lakshman, and someone is Ravana also. So the retaining that identity is very important to understand his play. So not becoming Krishna.
So when you say like we want to do seva and Krishna is pleased and the word you used was to achieve, I was confused on what you meant by that.
Basically, what the play is. In Bhagavatam, the play Krishna's plays is a story about his Vraj and his Vraj Leela. We have to live that story in present world. So we have to become a character which is very similar one of in the Bhagavatam, either his friend, either his mom, either any of the gopis, and we have to play. And now to play with that, we have to have the exact stage of it. And that stage, we cannot always like Shyamdas go to Vraj and leave our world. So I'm saying he's an example. So there are rare people who leave everything and go there in his own realm and play. That's unlike a Shakespearean stage. You're going exactly over there in the stage and play. Now you're making your own stage at home. Making own Vraj at your own place, at your own home. And now you are relieving first that this is not my home, it's his, it's Krishna's. Now I'm using his because Krishna is presently, he's his, her, everything. So should not be his, her, but then Krishna's generally because it's a term like that. And now when we are playing that role, we have to play exactly, for example, if you are playing a Yashoda's role. So we have to play exactly the mother's role to please the baby child Krishna. Achieving it when Krishna starts saying you, my mom. It's not confined to only this mom. He can be your lover, he can be anything. But then this is what achieving I want to explain that.
That's perfect. Thank you.
It seems it has to do with response, in other words.
Yeah.
Let's ask questions into this microphone if we can, so that everybody can hear.
I don't think it's working though.
Oh, really? Okay, can we turn them back on?
It's working.
Yeah, just, if you don't mind, just come over here to the side if you want to ask a question.
Hello, Baba. You talked about pleasing Krishna. And I was wondering, how does one know if Krishna is pleased? And does it matter that you have that information?
Good question. In a play, Krishna comes in another role. Not in an exact form, but in form of somebody else. What we call even a bhakta's form. For example, I'll just start with the cooking only because that I've stayed with. If you have cooked for him, and how you'll know that he'll like it? There will be other bhaktas coming for prasada. And that bhakta will say, oh, he liked it too much. So this is the one point you gain it, that he is pleased. In other way, we are simulating the exact time where the Krishna was, and we are trying in the present world. Though it's inner self, we keep coming to know that Krishna is pleased or not if we go deeper into it more. Because if I say in the worldly term, even a child playing with doll. And you can ask the child that the doll started speaking to the child. And now I'm talking about the Krishna. It's not a child's play. And even any action, even if it is false also, but it's relating to the supreme truth, it becomes truth. So you come to know in your inner self when we get more and more involved in it. And the other way is by some messenger, definitely, as a bhakta or as a third person, Krishna definitely conveys you. It's how Vallabhacharya says, is antah karna gochara. He'll come to know inside your heart that he's been pleased.
Shruti Ram?
Jai Shri Krishna, Prabhuji. This is my dilemma. We say namaste. I bow to the divine within you. And if we are bhaktas, and Krishna is our Ishtadev, then we see Krishna in everyone. So it's, how do we get beyond the glorious Krishna Maya? I mean, because Krishna is a form of the divine. How do we get beyond that?
For this, you need to understand the Sarvatma Bhava. The Shyamdas has termed it as total love. The first stage of bhakti is you see Krishna everywhere. True. But then it is very difficult to serve Krishna everywhere. If you see in a person, in your child, and you start believing that a child is Krishna, your worldly relation is like in problem, definitely. Because there is the worldly things coming out of that person also. So, seeing all the relation in Krishna is a Sarvatma Bhava, total love. First, understand Krishna everywhere. In your child, in your lover, in your father, in your mother, everywhere. But then taking out that relation and seeing all the relation in Krishna is Sarvatma Bhava. And why it is total love? Each and every kind of love is now dedicated, it becomes total. If something is left, then again you are in this worldly terms, the mundane world, and that gives you pain and happiness. So when you dedicate the entire relation, so by serving it, is only you can serve when you concentrate at one place. Like air is omnipresent, but when we can feel it? When we start fan or something. So we need to feel Krishna at one particular place, and we have to dedicate him what? Not worldly things mainly, your worldly relations. So that is total love.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I think sometimes about the role of proper behavior, correct behavior in this world, trying to be a good person, trying to do my part in the Leela in a kind and loving and just way. And then I reflect sometimes on the aspects of myself that seem so sort of pathetically lost and human, and often engaging in behavior that maybe I have some shame or some guilt or some feeling of, hey, is this really at my highest? You know, I sometimes get lost in my own peculiar humanity. And it's difficult for me to see how much this is really the work on myself I must do and purify, and how much is actually just sort of part of the Leela, and in a way it's just Krishna acting through me also. And sometimes I'm a little confused by all of that. Wonder if you can speak to that at all.
If you understand through the Vedic text, the first half of Veda is called Karma Kanda, the actions, an action related to purifying your karmas through yajnas. And the second half speaks on knowledge, the Jnana Kanda. So what happens is, on the first half it's, you have to purify yourself by your karma only. When you have done this thing, you reach to next level, to understand the Supreme Being. And that's the second level. After knowing the Supreme Being through yoga, through meditation, or through many other sources, then level comes now what to do with the Supreme Being. To merge him with him, to retain our identity, to lose our identity, to get mukti, the moksha from the cycles, that is kind of a retirement. So every action, the knowledge, even after the knowledge, one thing comes, oh, we need to retire definitely, or even retain, to love him by playing the role what he wants to. Doing karma, sometimes good, bad, is to understand, the bhakta needs to understand in the basic level what's a good karma and what's a bad one. And then what are the results to it? Our duty is to do karma only, because then there's a karmic cycle and it runs through thousands and thousands of life, and which account is debited and which account is credited, we as a soul cannot keep that account. So we have to leave it to him, to Krishna. Now we are doing the karma. Now what we can do for him now? So now we start loving him. And then now we are dedicating that karma to Krishna. Maybe doing something wrong or right in that will give the fruits of which is bad or good, like pap and punyas. But bhakta is not bothered about that. He's doing good karma. What will be the result of it? Not bothered, because he's not doing the karmas for that purpose. Because that is the path of mundane path. Because you want to debit your account with very good karmas, and then what we want to go is, we want to go to heaven. And what we are doing in heaven, maybe bad karma, maybe good karma. And again come back to this world and the cycle goes on, maybe hell. We need to leave this cycle. And if we want to leave this cycle, there are two options. Either to retire or to merge into Supreme Being as an Akshar Brahma. That is what we call as mukti. Or to play a character, a play in Krishna's realm and enjoy Krishna's Leela. To understand Leela is, we have to understand Krishna first. We chant his name, that is the first name, first step. Then his form, Rupa, Nam, Rupa, and then his attributes, Guna. These three chantings are for self, that is to purify our actions in this world. But these three together forms his Swarupa, the supreme form, the Krishna form. Nama plus Rupa plus Guna equals to Swarupa. And when that Swarupa does kriya with us, that is, does action with us, is Leela. So Krishna Leela, you understand, is different thing. When he does Leela with you, then there is no action left. Because he's doing Leela with us. So to purify these threes are enough in daily life. Whenever, whatever happens, you go in world and you take good things, bad thing, come back home, chant his name, chant his form, chant his attributes, is purifying yourself. But these three together is a form. And when that form does action with you, is Leela. So when he does Leela, you don't have to bother about anything. He's making you do. And that's what Bhakta's life is, who has achieved.
You know, for those of us who grew up worshipping Krishna, bhakti is synonymous with Krishna, right? That bhakti, in the sense that bhakti means bhakti for Krishna, right? But bhakti in America is used in a very broad sense, that I'm living with bhakti or I'm acting with bhakti. But can you speak about, is it possible to live with bhakti without having any relationship with Krishna? Can you have bhakti if your goal is to merge into the Brahmajyoti? Can you have bhakti, or is bhakti directly connected with Krishna and the desire to be serving Krishna and in Krishna's Leela?
In Sanskrit, it has come out of the word of bhaj sevayam dhatu. Bhaj is bhajan and seva. Seva is your action. And the bhakti, that bhaj is out of love. Action out of love is bhakti. It can be for any form, not confined to Krishna. Any action towards any supreme being, because again the Shastra says, Rati Devadir Vishaya iti bhava. Any love towards any godly figure, any divine figure is bhava. And when bhava walks on a particular path is bhakti. So when you are bhava filled and you want to achieve that divine, the divinity, is bhakti. Since in Pushti Sampradaya we have lived a life through Bhagavatam, we know how it is. Because there's a basic problem in bhakti. Like someone says how he is pleased and how to please him. So we need to play a role which is already being played, which is a safer one, because somebody has walked a path and we just have to need to follow them. So true that the bhakti can be of any divinity. Now about merging in, where you have to achieve somebody to merge, like Akshar Brahma, and you have to Param Jyoti, you want to merge it, then bhakti becomes sadhana. It is not the fruit bhakti. So that you are using as a tool, and then you leave bhakti. So that is the lower quality of a bhakti, where you are using as a tool. And when you use bhakti to love and to live with Krishna, it is a higher thing. Not a sadhana, it becomes fruit itself. It becomes Krishna itself. So one has to do bhakti to achieve the Rati Devadir. In the sense, not a mundane relation is bhakti. Any divine relation is bhakti. Even the divine love is bhakti. Even the Romeo and Juliet, maybe the divine love. There are very rare love in this world. But out of that love, if we can pick up that love and use it for the divinity, if you are confined to worldly relation, then it is not sarvatma bhava, total love. Because then it is being followed and then it is being poured into the worldly way. So you can use water, but you cannot use that water if it is in a gutter. So any divinity, this pure love, has to be used in divinity, not in the mundane and worldly relation. So your question, like bhakti can be done with anyone. But since it's a Pushti Sampradaya, it's related to Krishna, I'm talking about Krishna, you can talk about anyone. And about this merging, if you are using bhakti to achieve somewhere, then it's a tool. But if you are using bhakti to love Krishna, it's a fruit itself, not a tool. That's the basic difference.
You mentioned here also the Purushartha, and I know that you have a great example, and for me, I have to hear it again and again, and I would like to, if you would oblige me, this definition of the Purusharthas, where you give the kind of a practical explanation of what each of those is.
Okay. The four types of Purushartha is Dharma, Artha, Kam and Moksha. And the path of grace, the bhakti is considered to be the fifth Purushartha. It's not in the four Purushartha. For example, you have a desire that is Kama. And to fulfill that desire, you need to fulfill through some means. And those means are Artha Purushartha. And to control, like the traffic is going on and you have to need a traffic signal. So Dharma Purushartha is because everybody wants something and everybody are using the particular resources which is very limited. Now where the Dharma comes. Dharma is not exactly related to Supreme only. The Dharma is the way of life. How to be and present between everybody is using those means to achieve their Kama. So that's the Dharma. And when you retire from these things, that is I was saying that retirement, maybe the daily retirement or maybe the retirement, the complete retirement is moksha, is relieving yourself from the cycle of the wants, desire and the means to achieve those desires. And when you stop, is moksha purushartha. Here even Vallabhacharya says that because there is a path of Prabhamarga, there is a path of karma, path of even Maryada, that path of law, and the path of bhakti. But then there is a separate path also, the path of refuge. The different, because if you cannot love Krishna, but you have to dedicate yourself, that is surrender yourself to Krishna, then is a path where you sit down, you don't have to walk. There are different paths to walk, but when you sit down, is a refuge, that is shelter, that is a Prithak Sharana Marga. Like Bhagavan in Gita also says, Mamekam Sharanam Praja, Sarva Dharma Parityaja. When you leave all the dharmas and you only come to me, is sitting in that path of where you don't have to walk. And you cannot love also because you don't have that connection to Krishna. Even if you sit down, I will do your uddhara, I will liberate you. So that is also there. Is not doing a Purushartha, is Sharanagati. Then there is one more Sharanagati, that is refuge. Is the first step to love, to do bhakti. Then first step of bhakti is Sharanagati, where you are surrendering yourself, taking shelter, refuge, to dedicate to Krishna and ultimately achieve bhakti. And that Sharanagati and that bhakti is Pancham Purusha, that is fifth attributes. So that doesn't come in these four attributes. And that is a different path, which is not a mundane and which cannot be compared to all the worldly relations. Yeah.
We just passed last week the beautiful day of Radhastami. And I was wondering if you could speak a little bit about Srimati Radharani.
It's a very long topic when we talk about Sri Swami Ji and the Radha Ji. Well, Shruti says, that is, Veda says when there was only one Shakti and Krishna was feeling up, means we call it Krishna again, the Supreme Being. He was feeling lonely and he wanted to play with someone and he divided himself. Eko ham dvitiyam echad, the text says. He divided himself into him and his Shakti, and that is the Radha Shakti. And then he divided more further to create his realm of Leela, and that is what we call it is a Nitya Leela. So Radha Ji is a Mukhya Shakti, and you need to understand in the Pushti Leela, which is a very intense topic, maybe someone will understand or not. But Krishna, what the Swamini means? Who's with Swami? That means if you pray Radha separate from Krishna, you have to understand the delicate relation in bhakti. Then Radha becomes a Devi to achieve something. She is not a Swami's Swamini. Not an object, means not a person to have a bhakti with. Same as Yamuna. If you want to achieve something and praying, that she becomes Devi. But she becomes Swamini when you are with her to achieve Krishna. But now what is the nature of a Swamini? She is Tamas Dharma Pradhana. So in this way is only me. And very difficult to come near Krishna when the Swamini Ji is there. But definitely we all are Radha Sachari and Kinkaris. You understand that maybe because Kinkari word and Manjari. So in this way, this is a very delicate relation in this play. We need to please Swamini, but we have to be the Bhakta has to be very witty about it to get Krishna. How to bypass her sometimes. So she is the Shakti also, but we are actually playing with Krishna. So there is a delicate relation. I can keep going on, but then this is a different topic it will be.
And the same you would say with Yamuna Devi also?
Yeah, but the difference between Yamuna Ji is, she is Nirguna Bhakta. You understand between the Rajas, Tamas and Sattvic, that's a Trigunatmak. And the Nirguna is that the role of Yamuna Ji is, even if she doesn't come near Krishna, but she will carry the Bhaktas towards her. She'll take and hold her. Where Swamini Ji, it's a bit difficult. So that's a bhakti, delicate relation. For Krishna, Krishna loves Swamini the most. Radha. But for us, Yamuna ji is the easier path. That's a play going on. Any other questions?
That's all the questions. Babashi has another. Oh. Yeah? Yogi?
I was wondering if you could speak about the history of kirtan and role of kirtan in the path of grace.
Oh, that's as I said right now, is Nam, Roop and Guna, that is name, attributes and his form. If we keep singing about it, it's called bhajan according to our terms, like Pushti terms. Bhajan is cleansing yourself. But when it comes to kirtan, it is not for yourself at all. It is to please him. For example, even in front of you, somebody keep singing your name, you will get bored. So in the seva also, if Krishna doesn't like to hear his name again and again, because that's the play is all about. So here kirtan comes, and where we are singing his play, and not a play like he has done something great and he's a Parabrahma, he's supreme, nothing like that. It's kind of how you sing, how you tell your child or something, oh wow, how you played well, like maybe basketball or baseball. Oh wow means he's playing this way. It's kind of coming to his level and singing his praise or singing about his play in his term, his Leela, that is Vraj Leela, is Kirtan. Kirtan is never to cleanse ourselves, is to please him. And it comes when the Swarupa does Leela, that is Kriya. So the Kirtan is his stories, singing about his story to him, not a great achievement, not a big thing, not a big jargons and not Vedic, something that you're omnipresent, you are supreme powerful. Is singing about his play in a Vraj Leela, that is in Bhagavatam, to please him. So the basic difference between the bhajan and the kirtan in this path is kirtan we are singing to please him and bhajan we are singing to cleanse ourselves. That's the basic difference.
Some people are also just being introduced to the form of japmala. Can you explain the difference between japmala with bhajan and kirtan also, the difference between?
Yeah, again it's a chanting his name. When you chant in a particular number, you are more bothered about how many japs you have done. That becomes sadhana again. And 1 lakh, 10. And again how we don't know that after doing so much of japas and malas, where it is written I don't know, because old text never says that you achieve something. And if you also go by that way, that means that mala and japa become sadhana, again to cleanse yourself. And there is one more way in a bhakti, where you think that he is doing a rasa. In the Ras Leela, that formation, I think so, it's a little bit over there, not much. You have seen the Rasa Chitras. So Krishna is playing near your heart. You do japa over here with this finger, and the mool mala, that is where you reach to the end, is Krishna and others are gopis. And chanting name to those gopis will create leela in your heart. And that will be not for ourselves, is again to please him. So that will not become a sadhana, that will again becomes a fruit. So that's again the basic difference.
I think everyone agrees with me. We are very blessed to have you come and talk to us in such an articulate way and in such depth. Do you have plans to continue to come to America and to teach us? Because we don't have our Shyamdas ji, and it's so wonderful to have you here.
I remember I came last time here with Shyamdas, you know. He used to do mostly talking and anything. I was just a commentator in between. So it was very useful for me to communicate between you. Now I definitely miss him because I lived and he lived, both of us lived together and spent most of our time. And he was a connection between you and me because my line of teaching is very different with this proper Sanskrit text. And he was a translator, not even a translator. He was bhav-filled bhakta, who not even lived as a bhakta, but even lived with his guru lineage, because my grandfather was his guru. He not even lived with my grandfather, but even I lived with him, the third generation. Basically, that's the sign of bhakta is. Because he really literally made it play right here. Like his Swarupa was a Krishna himself. He was maybe friend to Krishna, maybe mother to Krishna. And at the same time, because we are from the Vallabh lineage, he also replayed those times of Chaurasi, that is 84 Vaishnavas, you must have read that book also, in the present world. Because he believed my grandfather to be Vallabhacharya only. So everything he brought it here. Nothing was past for him. And that is how he lived a life which was not at all mundane. It was grace-filled life. Because everywhere he relived, he never saw the worldly relation everywhere. He made it happen right here. The Krishna was not past. Even the Vallabhacharya was not past for him. He literally brought it over here, and hope everyone can learn through his life, you know, because he always used to tell, if my guru cries for me, that means I've achieved something. Is how he's saying, how to know that Krishna was pleased. Maybe not Krishna, but the Vallabh or Vallabhacharya can tell definitely he was a bhakta. So this is how you can come to know that Krishna is pleased or not.
Sandy?
Recently, the Pope has been to New York City, and many religious leaders are talking about how to deal with climate change and social inequality, and I wondered if the Pushti Marg had an approach on that.
Pushti Marg is based on the Vedic Sanatan Dharma. It's kind of a cup and saucer. The love towards Krishna is maybe you have a drink or a liquid or a tea inside it. The pushti is hold, and the saucer in which we are resting is Sanatan Dharma. So that is why we need the Vedic Sanatan Dharma to rest this grace-filled liquid or rasa Krishna on some platform. And this Sanatan Dharma has to deal with it, and it is dealing with it. Like we have a movement towards Yamuna movement and many others. Because the bhakti has a different level. This is the basic dharma of a Sanatan Dharma, to take care of all the environments and all. If you have crossed that, then only you are eligible for bhakta. You have a consciousness towards the environment, and that is why we have said that we should not climb Giriraj just to have a tour on it. That's why we used to take permission from gurus to climb it. You cannot do Yamuna Pujan that way. It's being checked on those days. Those things were there, inbuilt. But the bhakti is at the different level, and the Sanatan Dharma is at the different level. So when you come down to this level, and then you think about the worldly thing, and then these things has to come. So is a Sanatan Dharma, Vedic Dharma, together has to take care of the climates and the worldly things. And bhakti needs a clean place and a clean stage, definitely. And then when you are playing a role, you don't think then what is there on the stage. So when you bhakta reaches to the vyasan, and that way you forget what's happening in the world. But the base has to be clean and clear. So that Sanatan Dharma, as an entire Sanatan Dharma who's following the Vedic Dharma, has to take care of it. Not as a bhakta.
JJ, you have to beautiful children, a son and a daughter, and I've heard you mention on occasion that how that things about how being a father and relating with your children, how that also at times informs your bhakti. I wonder if you might speak to that a little bit.
It's very difficult to follow our lifestyle because we are doing a full-time job, and many people cannot give full-time. We are fortunate enough that we can give it. But yeah, definitely, our children think and we make them believe that Krishna is there from the childhood. The moment they started understanding anything, we gave them the platform. Anything you want to have a dialogue, talk to him, not to us. Anything you want to share, new clothes, new toys, play with him. And by having an interaction, the dialogue, we keep telling them, you keep talking and one day he'll respond. And it is same, even the child or for adult, one has to have a relation, we have to keep talking. And one day, even at the end of the life, the one word if he speaks, and you are liberated. You are into his Leela. So we should keep trying to have a bhav-filled relation with him. We should keep talking with Krishna. We should keep sharing it. And the moment it comes, where you come to know, oh, he spoke at least a word, then you are one of the Braj Bhaktas. That's the life is all about.
To me, this sounds very easy to what you're saying. I can talk all day long. I love to chant the names of God and sit and sing. I talk to him when I walk on the beach. Is it as easy as you're making it sound? 'Cause it feels very easy to me. I realize that we still have to live in life. I still have to do the things I'm supposed to do. But when I hear you say, these are things that I do every day, am I there and don't even know it?
You are doing the harder part, In marriage, when one gets married and one sees that the one is husband, one is wife, or one is something like that, the partners, and then you start living and you get along well, you know how to live together. You're talking about you know how to live together. Now it's the only thing that you have to get married to Krishna. So you're the third person who can guide you, who can initiate you and make you feel that how it has to be done comes into picture. So you are doing a harder part, definitely, which is very hard. Even people get married and don't know how to live life.
You are a direct descendant of Vallabhacharya, and it's my understanding that Vallabhacharya is a manifestation of Krishna and Radha. Can you describe the relationship between Vallabhacharya and Krishna for us?
His Swarupa's mention is to be, he is the face of Krishna. Now in Veda says that the fire has come out of the mouth of the Purana Purushottama. So Vallabhacharya is a Krishnasya. Even my son's name is Krishnasya. Asya, that is the face, and Krishnasya is a Krishna's face. Now why he has taken his face and manifested on earth or on the world Leela? To again revive those love that Vraj Bhaktas had and again relive that story, what was being closed till the years. So these manifestation, even as a Swamini, that is Radhaji, even as a Krishna, basically to teach and to revive the Krishna Bhakti, which has been lost throughout the years. So we believe definitely he is a manifestation of Krishna, Radha and a Sakshi, Trityatmak Swarupa. Even the Sakshi, who's actually who's a witness to his Leela.
Another Padma Ji asked also if Baushi was going to grace us with more teachings. And in fact, he is at Padma's own house on Monday. So if you would like to meet Baushi again and hear more teachings on Monday evening, we're at Padma's house. There's information about that on our website. and then Tuesday night at the Jiva Mukti Yoga Center in New York by Union Square. So we're very blessed that Padma has opened her home and her studio for more of these kind of teachings.
But my question was actually further on.
Oh, okay, after that too. Okay, well, we hope so.
Do you like this? Do you like being a traveling teacher?
Again, this is a Leela, you know. Union and separation. When you are in a union, when you are in Raj or you are with your own Krishna, that's a union. But every time, if you are also all the time in the union, you need some separation to again intensify your love. Maybe these trips are to intensify those love.
Are you going to be visiting Raj Temple in Pennsylvania?
Very delicate question. I'm against commercialization. Anything, if you are collecting money in the name of Krishna, you are doing a business in the name of Krishna, is against bhakti. Don't want to further mention.